Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Today, we're going to be looking at Ethereum, its valuations against Bitcoin, and talking about the shoe on the other foot. Yesterday, we talked about Bitcoin not doing very well, and being affected by Bitcoin dominance. And it seems that Bitcoin dominance is trending up. There's signs to indicate that it's going to bounce, and if it does, then that is quite catastrophic for altcoins. Earlier I made a video about Chainlink, um, which has been doing well, and I would consider Chainlink an exception rather than the rule, because of its historical price history against Bitcoin being bearish. There's evidence to suggest that it could do the same this time around if Bitcoin doesn't do very well. Regardless of that, Ethereum, um, I would not necessarily put against that exception. If Bitcoin's not doing well, Ethereum also does not necessarily do well. But we're going to be talking about a scenario where potentially, altcoins do well. Bitcoin dominance does shoot down through the floor, despite what Bitcoin is doing. And one way to look at that is just looking at the Ethereum chart against Bitcoin. Now we see from May to November, Ethereum has been in this structure, and again, as I said before, we're hitting our heads up here. We've been rising support at the bottom, and then we finally broke out of it. And now, after we peaked out, we are coming back to this area here, this critical juncture, this area of the 20-week moving average, and this downward line of resistance turning into support. Hopefully, if this happens, if we see a bounce, then we could see a Q1 move of Ethereum, much like to what we saw in prior times, like this move here, where we saw it come from the wick from wick to wick, 100% against Bitcoin in that time. Um, and if that would be the case, then that is quite extraordinary. Obviously a 100% move from where we are right now would cause it to be a 1.14 Bitcoin valuation, which is, you know, coincidentally quite near the all-time high on the Ether Bitcoin chart. Not saying that it's going to happen, but this is kind of what I would imagine it to be played out as if it did happen. Um, if we look at the RSI is kind of neutral. There's nothing really indicating us one way or the other when looking at the Ethereum chart. Um, but when we look at, say, Bitcoin dominance and Bitcoin, it kind of leads us to believe that Ethereum might not be able to make such a bounce. It would be an amazing bounce, though. I think if Ethereum made that bounce, it could very well uh, save the short term outlook on the market. Because if we look at if we look at like the fear and greed index for Bitcoin right now, um, we're at 21. We were at a low of 10 a couple days ago. It's the asset class is not looking too hopeful right now. But with a major bounce from Ethereum, I think would kind of reinvigorate the market in looking for hope in the new year. Regardless, I think whether or not Ethereum's able to make this bounce, I'm still quite confident that Ethereum is going to continue to rally over the course of the year. If it doesn't, then maybe the first half of the year is going to be a little bit of a lull, and kind of die down, and then into into the later half of the year, we could see an invigoration of the market. At this point, Bitcoin is hopefully back above its 20-week moving average and pushing up to newer highs. And with that, the altcoin market will be again invigorated by that move. Um, but yeah, this is kind of what I'm looking at with Ethereum right now. When we look at the Ether USD valuation, we've obviously broken past the 20-week moving average, but we're at a critical point of $3,000 roughly. And $3,000 kind of aligns pretty well with the 50-week moving average, which is technically where we had bounced from this week. We kind of wicked down there, we got back up, and this is kind of where we are. So hopefully we're able to hold this level. It's the RSI is not looking too great, because we're simply just trending down and kind of getting rejected here. If at any point, um, Ethereum decides to uh, come back up and break through, then that's a definite story for another video. Um, but as you can see, even when we try to look hopeful about the asset, there's one thing going for it where it's at critical support, I think, against the 20-week moving average, against the downward line of resistance here. It's up against the 50-week moving average against the US dollar. There's a lot of things going against Ethereum as well, which makes it pretty iffy. Regardless of that, I still hold my Ethereum position. It's the second largest position in my portfolio, and that is fine. And hopefully we could we can be hopeful and see Bitcoin dominance actually break the floor of 40% dominance. We could see Ethereum bounce off, and that would be in an ideal world. But we know we don't live in an ideal world. So potentially, if we are not able to break through this and we get back into the structure, I would say that the structure is invalidated. This doesn't exist anymore, and probably the next step would be the 50-week moving average at that point at 0.06 Bitcoin. Anyway, that's all for today, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.